Given a bare-bones undercover cop revenge thriller to work with, Karen Kasama elected to craft it into Donnie Brasco by way of Sicario, with all the style and intensity of a Michael Mann movie. Then go and get Nicole Kidman to go monster on us and frame Sebastian Stan as this generation's Michael Biehn. Nice! I've checked, by the way, it's definitely pronounced Bean, okay? We can stop arguing about that now. Not a single goddamn Oscar nomination for this? Not a one? The best performance in Nicole Kidman's entire career? Not a single nomination? You'll have to forgive me if I can't hear the outcry over the screams of Bryan Singer's victims. Anyway, Destroyer's a badass movie. It's this year's Sicario, it's this decade's Donnie Brasco, this century's Michael Mann flick, and I have all the time in the world for it. In fact, 4 stars, here you go. What you get with Destroyer is a tightly introspective revenge thriller. Kidman's a former undercover agent whose failed final assignment has upended her life years earlier, and she's now just a broken shell of a woman as a result. But when the crime boss that she was undercover to catch originally, when he suddenly returns to the US, she's going to stop at nothing to get some closure, and she's willing to cross any line she has to do it. Remember that Glenn Close season of The Shield and how nasty that got? That's like that PG-13 version of this. It does not let up. It wears its influences really proudly on its sleeve, but at least has the decency to bask in how awesome they are. The whole thing's realized with that distinct kind of Michael Mann heightened reality. And there's this sequence that's just the exterior of a moving car under some slick synth tones and a voiceover comprised entirely of voicemail messages that's just cool as hell. Straight out the Michael Mann playbook, but you'll have seen it used similarly recently in Widows, which was incidentally another superb movie that got nothing from the Oscar noms if you're keeping score. It combines those kind of sensibilities with what I can only really describe as a sort of goofy quest-style plot that somehow plays a lot more sensibly than you'd imagine it would. Like, they literally map out the plot for you early on, as if they're pre-programming their own DVD chapters in advance, and yet it works. It absolutely works. In fact, if you look at Kasama as having come from directing Jennifer's Body, which, for the record, is a movie I take about as seriously as 1994's My Boyfriend's Back on the horror comedy front, you think of that, and then you look at how she's perfectly balanced Michael Mann with a schlocky, cellular grade kind of thriller, and it's a tonal gag in and of itself that's superior to literally anything in Jennifer's Body. Whack in some other deep-cut filmmaker nods like synth-powered transitory shots that go full Kubrick on you, and there's a foot chase straight out of a Hitchcock flick. It's ambitious stuff, and it pulls it off with some aggressive as hell confidence. Because it takes place non-linearly over 3 different time periods, obviously by way of flashbacks, the makeup effects they've used for Kidman become quite an integral part. And this deserves even more praise there than Christian Bale's currently enjoying for Vice. Unlike that movie, for instance, this has a real last thing on my mind kind of effect as regards there actually being a movie star under there, like Charlize Theron managed with Monster. You don't generally watch that movie and continually feel like you're watching a Hollywood starlet under some prosthetics. No, the quality of those prosthetics in a film of equal quality absolutely draws you in, and same as here, it's the performance that then holds you there. There's a subtlety to it too. I mean, it's pretty jarring the first time they flash back to young prime Kidman. But as you make your way through the different time periods and one begins to lead into the events of another, the physical changes they apply to it are superb and even quite cleverly unnoticeable at first because of the non-linear nature of it all playing with you. Through all of it though, Kidman's on top of her game. I am gobsmacked that this didn't get a Best Actress nom. I really would have thunk it. She is full-on Golden Age Clint Eastwood in this. Get her in dogged pursuit mode, she's Jack Bauer on ketamine. She essentially takes Kasama's sort of favoured trope of the flawed female protagonist and just drops a hold my beer and amps the thing up to 11. The dramatic nuances are what make it genuinely terrific, though. Kidman walks just this brilliant line, playing equal parts pitied and despised. She's a classic Lee Marvin archetype, but she's given a fearless, feminist edge, and all the brutality that modification needs to be wholeheartedly feared. Helps that she has a pretty game cast to play it all with, though. For once, a filmmaker actually remembers that they've hired Toby Kebbell and utilizes him to pretty harsh, if faintly cartoony effect. Scoot McNairy, meanwhile, provides it with bags of sympathy and a terrifically understated part, and then Bradley Whitford turns up, having now perfected delivering the millennials' answer to the George Hamilton Playboy grandpa performance that he gets to do just that here with an added level of sleaze, which is enjoyable as hell, and even gets to give Kidman one of her best moments as a result. All of this is built on just what's a toweringly hard-boiled screenplay. It maybe drops one plot twist too many towards the end, but it's hard to knock when the rest is as stirring a written character piece as this is. It's about grief by absolute consumption, and it makes for a really hard watch at times, but one that you can't look away from by virtue of just how armrest gripping it is. 4 big glowing stars from me. I'll be shocked if this doesn't wind up being one of my favorites of the year, and I'm just gonna think of it as being too good for the Oscars. Which it totally is. Destroyer is a tremendous movie, and congratulations to Toby Kebbell. He actually got to appear in live action for the final half hour of a movie. I can't even remember the last time that happened. A very, very different story, meanwhile, this week comes in the form of the documentary On Her Shoulders, which chronicles the story of Nadia Murad. Murad was imprisoned, tortured, and raped by the Islamic State following the occupation of the Yazidi community in 2014, and she'd go on to become the first Iraqi to win the Nobel Peace Prize for her work as an activist fighting back against them. It's a fascinating story, and while we've experienced something kind of comparable in film recently, I mean, I guess we kind of did with My Name is Malala. But obviously that was kind of upbeat with the charm for its subject. This swings instead more towards asking the harder questions, particularly, about the treatment of people like women and children seeking asylum in the face of both a terrifying threat and increased xenophobia in the world that sort of requires their story to be shouted about louder. The director, Andrea Bombach, she ultimately proves a little bit too slick for her own good sometimes. And there are moments like seeing Amal Clooney structuring an entrance shot for her and Murad. They kind of prove a little awkward in the grander sense of the story. I mean, it's a documentary. But what time we do actually get to spend with Murad as a person rather than a figurehead, those scenes they're quite intimate and engaging. I mean, there's a dryness to the material that I don't think will take it as a crossover in quite the way the Malala doc did, but I wouldn't, for instance, expect to see this getting a prime Channel 4 viewing slot or anything, but that's not to say that it's not like a powerful and stirring documentary in its own right. 3 stars from me. It won't stay with you for a long time, but it will linger. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, rate, and review.